Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots from Snarful Solutions Group. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan. Great to be connecting with you all today.
Likewise. We're recording this on Monday, June 16th, 2025, here in Sacramento.
And we've been looking through the latest Snarful internal tech article report. Some really interesting stuff in there.
Absolutely. Our goal today is really just to pull out the top 3 stories that caught our eye and, connect the dots on how they might affect everyday life.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, before we jump into tech, quick look outside here in Sacramento. Looks gorgeous. Sunny, high heading for about 87 degrees Fahrenheit.
Nice. Nationally, though, a bit more going on. There's a heads up for severe weather from the north central high plains into the upper Mississippi Valley. Could see some hail, strong winds, maybe even tornadoes.
Oh, wow. Okay, something to watch.
Yeah. And also some excessive rainfall expected in parts of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic.
And out west?
Still dealing with hot conditions and, unfortunately, critical fire weather in the Great Basin and Southwest. That's likely sticking around midweek. So, yeah, stay safe out there.
Definitely. Quick check on the markets from Friday's close, June 13th.
Sure. The Dow Jones ended the week at 42,197.79.
And the S&P 500?
Closed at 5,976.97.
Okay, good to know. Now, let's get into these tech stories. We've picked 3 key areas from the report. UK regulators getting tough, some mind-blowing brain-computer interface developments, and changes coming to an app many of us use daily.
Yeah, starting with the UK regulators, it seems the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, is really putting big tech moves under the microscope.
First up is this massive proposed merger between Vodafone and 3UK. We're talking $15 million, right? About $19 billion US.
That's right. And the big deal here, from a market perspective, is that it would take the UK from 4 main mobile network operators, the ones who own the actual infrastructure, down to just 3.
So you'd have EE, O2, and then this new combined Vodafone 3 entity.
Exactly. And the CMA has officially kicked off what they call a Phase 1 probe.
Okay, Phase 1. What does that mean?
It means they're formally investigating whether this merger could create a substantial lessening of competition. Basically, will it hurt consumers through higher prices, less choice, maybe slower innovation because there's less pressure?
And how long does this Phase 1 take?
It can take up to 40 days. But honestly, given the size and complexity here, most people expect it'll move to a much deeper Phase 2 investigation.
Which takes longer, I assume.
Yeah, Phase 2 can add another 6 months. So a final decision might not come until, say, autumn 2024. Which, interestingly, kind of lines up with when the companies hope to finalize the deal anyway.
Now, Vodafone and 3, what's their argument for merging?
They're saying, look, Covine will have more resources. They've pledged £11 billion for investment. They argue this will let them roll out 5G faster, improve infrastructure generally, and actually compete better against the 2 bigger players, EE and O2.
Makes sense from their side. But there was also something else mentioned in the report about national security.
Right. It's kind of an underlying current. Vodafone has a significant shareholder based in the UAE, and 3 is owned by CK Hutchison, which is based in Hong Kong, and reportedly has ties relevant to China's national security laws.
So it's not just about prices, it's also about who controls this critical infrastructure.
Exactly. So for you listening, especially if you're in the UK, the question is, does fewer networks mean better service due to investment? Or does it mean less competition and potentially higher bills down the line? It really shows why governments step in to review these huge deals.
And the CMA isn't stopping there. The report also highlights they're looking into deals involving artificial intelligence, specifically investments in a company called Anthropic.
Yeah, Anthropic. They're a big name in AI now. They make the Claude model, which competes with ChatGPT. And they were actually founded by former OpenAI folks.
And they've got some huge backers, right? Google and Amazon.
Massive backers. Google's parent, Alphabet, put in an initial $300 billion for a 10% stake, then committed up to $2 billion more. And Anthropic agreed to use Google Cloud as its, quote, preferred cloud provider.
Preferred, okay. And Amazon.
Amazon jumped in too, planning to invest up to $4 billion. And in their deal, Amazon Web Services, AWS, would be Anthropic's primary cloud provider.
Wow. So huge investments tied to using their cloud services. What's the CMA's concern here?
Well, they're probing if these partnerships effectively count as a relevant merger situation. Again, could these deals lead to a substantial lessening of competition, but this time in the UK's AI market?
So the worry is that the biggest cloud players are essentially tying up the most promising AI startups.
That seems to be the core question, yeah. Does it potentially lock out competitors or limit innovation if the foundational AI models are so closely linked to the biggest tech platforms, the ones controlling the computing power and data?
It feels like regulators are trying to get ahead of the curve here, making sure the future of AI isn't controlled by just a handful of giants.
Exactly. They're looking at who's controlling the building blocks, not just market share today. It's about preventing future choke points, whether it's mobile networks or AI development.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. The next topic from the report sounds like something out of science fiction. Brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs.
Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. BCIs are basically technologies trying to create a direct link between brain activity, those electrical signals, and external devices like computers or robotic limbs.
Thinking your commands, essentially.
Pretty much. And the report highlights that China is moving incredibly fast in this field, really catching up to, and in some ways maybe even surpassing, efforts in places like the US.
What kind of progress are we talking about?
Some major milestones just recently. Back in March, a patient in China with tetraplegia received a DCI implant, making China only the second country after the US where this has happened.
That's huge for that patient.
Absolutely. And just last week, there was a demonstration where a monkey using a BCI developed by a Chinese company and research institute controlled a robotic arm just by thinking.
Wow. Incredible.
The hardware is advancing too. The report mentioned Chinese researchers developing a BCI chip with, get this, 65,000 channels, and it's bidirectional, meaning it can send and receive signals.
65,000. How does that compare?
Well, the source materials described other current chips often having around 3,000 channels and sometimes being only one way. So that's a potentially massive leap in the amount of information that can be exchanged.
And we're seeing real-world applications.
Yes. Like a team at Tsinghua University enabling a paralyzed patient to use a wireless BCI to control robotic hands and drink water. The potential for restoring function is just immense.
Beyond movement, what else?
The hope is that BCIs could eventually help treat neurological conditions. Things like epilepsy, maybe Alzheimer's, depression, Parkinson's, by directly modulating brain activity.
Okay, the medical potential is clear, but the report also touches on, other uses and the ethics.
Right, that's a crucial part of the story. While medical uses are the main focus, China is also reportedly exploring non-medical applications, especially using non-invasive BCIs like headsets you wear.
Non-medical? Like what?
Things like cognitive enhancement, trying to boost attention, regulate sleep, maybe improve memory, or even using them to control exoskeletons for augmenting physical abilities.
Cognitive enhancement. That raises some flags, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Now, Chinese ethical guidelines issued earlier this year apparently acknowledged this exploration, but stressed the need for extreme caution. They emphasize not interfering with human autonomy, needing proof the tech is superior, and requiring broad societal agreement before going down that road.
Is this exploration unique to China?
No, not entirely. The sources note that U.S. companies and even the Department of Defense are also looking into wearable BCIs for things like enhancing focus or potential military applications. So the ethical questions are global.
And there are efforts to standardize things.
Yeah, like the Meta BCI open source initiative, trying to create common platforms for non-invasive BCI software. Shows how fast the field is moving everywhere.
So for you listening, it's this incredible duality, isn't it? Amazing hope for people with disabilities or diseases.
A truly life-changing potential.
But then these profound ethical questions about enhancing healthy people. Where do we draw the line? Who decides? It's a conversation we definitely need to be having.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's technology that could fundamentally change what it means to be human in some ways.
Okay, one more story from the report. Shifting back to something maybe more immediately familiar, WhatsApp.
Yes, the messaging app used by, billions. There's significant news about how Meta, its owner, is planning to make more money from it.
They paid $19 billion for it over a decade ago, so monetization was always going to be a focus eventually, right?
Seems like that time is now. The big headline is, WhatsApp is starting to show ads.
Okay, ads on WhatsApp? That sounds concerning to some users, I bet. Where exactly will these ads appear?
This is the key point the report stressed. The ads will only be in the Updates tab. That's where you find status updates and the channels feature.
So not in your private one-on-one or group chats?
Correct. Meta seems to be holding firm on their promise not to put ads in the main chat inbox. Your personal messages remain ad-free and end-to-end encrypted.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction. But that Updates tab is still pretty popular, isn't it?
Hugely popular. The sources mentioned 1.5 billion users visit it daily, so it's definitely a valuable piece of real estate for advertising.
Are ads the only new monetization thing?
No, they're rolling out other things too, mainly related to channels in that Updates tab.
Yeah.
Creators will be able to offer paid subscriptions for exclusive content. Meta says they won't take a cut this year, which is interesting.
And businesses.
Businesses will be able to pay to promote their channels to help users discover them more easily.
So how are the ads targeted? That's always the big question with Meta.
According to the report, they're using minimal data, things like your city, your language, and critically, your activity within the Updates tab itself, like which channels you follow or if you interact with an ad there.
And they're definitely not using data from private chats for ads.
They explicitly state that. Private messages, calls, group chats, the data stays encrypted and isn't used for ad targeting.
Okay. Why this move now? What's Meta's bigger strategy?
It looks like part of a bigger plan to turn WhatsApp into more of a super app, kind of like WeChat in Asia, integrating shopping, payments, business interactions, all alongside messaging. The ads and channel features are steps towards building that ecosystem.
So what does this mean for you if you use WhatsApp?
Well, if you use status or follow channels, expect to see ads popping up soon as they roll this out globally. It will change the feel of that specific part of the app.
And it might make people think about the privacy trade-offs, even if chats stay encrypted?
It could, yeah. Even if the ads are separate, seeing them within the app might shift perceptions for some. It's a clear reminder that even free services need a business model, especially ones operating at WhatsApp's massive scale.
A necessary evolution for them, perhaps, but one users will definitely notice.
For sure.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of the main points from the report today.
Sounds good. We started with the UK regulators, the CMA, stepping up scrutiny. They're probing the Vodafone 3 mobile merger over competition concerns.
Right, and also looking very closely at Google and Amazon's big investments in the AI company Anthropic, worried about future competition in the AI space.
Then we jump to the, frankly, amazing advancements in brain-computer interfaces, particularly highlighting China's progress and the incredible medical potential, but also flagging the serious ethical debates around non-medical enhancement uses.
And finally, the news that WhatsApp is introducing ads, but importantly, only within its Updates tab, status and channels, not private chats, as part of Meta's push to build out its business features.
Yeah, 3 really different stories, but they all connect, showing how tech giants are evolving, how regulators are responding, and how cutting-edge tech keeps raising both exciting possibilities and complex societal questions.
It really underscores how interconnected this all is: regulation, innovation, business models, and ultimately how these things shape the technology we rely on every day. Lots to think about.
We are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.